into summer, we spend more time in the sun and even possibly in the tanning bed, but we need to be sure that we're taking necessary precautions to prevent melanoma. We're going to talk a little bit about that, but I want to introduce you to Mr. Ron Powers, who has been touched personally by melanoma in a relative's life. Is that correct, Ron?
That's correct, and thanks for having us here today. My mother-in-law back in 1989 had a spot on her shoulder, turned out to be stage 2 melanoma, and she had surgery. They removed it. They said it's all gone, no need for any follow-up radiation or chemo or anything. And then about 20 years later, in 2009, the melanoma resurfaced. And at that time, of course, it metastasized and went throughout her body. And from the time of actual diagnosis, once she knew she had it until she passed away, was a very short time frame, less than a month. And of course, being dormant for 20 years, you don't think anything about it,
right.
And it suddenly came back. And that's one of the dangers of melanoma. Folks who've had little things happen, and then 20 years later or so it comes back. And of course, exposure to sunburns is a high risk, increases your risk for melanoma. The use of tanning beds increases your risk. So we started, my family started this foundation 10 years ago in 2000, almost 10 years ago in 2010, to raise money for the prevention and awareness of melanoma. And then CHI Memorial took over the foundation about 3 years ago, and it's really grown by leaps and bounds since then.
And we're sharing Elizabeth's story today because we are talking about Elizabeth's Outrun Melanoma 5K and Walk. We'll give you the details on that event a little bit later here in just a few minutes. But Ron, you kind of mentioned on some of those things, you know, sunburns, tanning beds. I want to talk about the symptoms. A lot of people think maybe they're just looking for a spot. What was some of your personal experience with Miss Elizabeth?
Well, one of the things that's promoted that you'll find online and reading about melanoma or skin cancer, and of course skin cancer is the most common form of cancer that there is, skin cancer. And of course, not all skin cancer is melanoma, but melanoma is the deadliest form of skin cancer. And one of the things that's important is to try to catch it early. And there are the little acronym, the ABCDEs of melanoma. And the A is for asymmetry and looking at moles. If you draw a line down the middle of a mole and the two sides do not match, if they're not asymmetrical, then that's a bad warning sign. It could be melanoma. B is for the border. If you don't have an even border, if it's an uneven, squiggly border of the mole, then that's another bad warning sign. C is for color. The darker and color it is, that mole, it's a sign that it could be melanoma. D is the diameter. If you have a spot that is about 1/4 of an inch or so in diameter, which is roughly the size of like a pencil eraser, then that's a red flag that you ought to have that checked if it's a quarter inch or larger. And then E is for evolution. If there are changes in that mole over time, and the changes in the color, the size, the shape, and those kind of things, and that's another warning sign. You need to have that checked out. So it's easy to remember, A, B, C, D, E, check those things, and that's...
Or you can never be, you can never be too safe.
No.
You can always have something checked out just to be safe. And of course, CHI is a great place to do that because they've received the Melanoma Hope Network Center of Excellence designation. So who better than to take care of, checking out any questions that you may have or any spots that you're worried about.
And it's one of only 17 Melanoma Hope Network Centers of Excellence in the country.
Oh, wow.
And it's the only one in Tennessee. And one of the great things about this fundraiser with Elizabeth's Outrun Melanoma, this is the 7th annual one that we've had. All of the money raised from this event stays right here locally. It goes to all the programs that CHI Memorial offers in regard to melanoma and the prevention and awareness and the treatment of melanoma. So all the money stays right here in Hamilton County.
All right, so this run and walk is coming up on Saturday, May 11th. It's going to be at Enterprise South Nature Park. Is there a deadline to register, and how do we register?
No deadline to register. You can even walk up that morning and register. Registration start at 8 a.m. or getting there at 8 a.m. as far as registering or whatever, and then at 9 o'clock it starts. But you can register online at memorial.org/race. Memorial.org/race. It's $30 if you're going to participate in the timed run. We also have a walk, and you can participate. It's untimed walk, and registration for that is $25. We have some great T-shirts, and the first 250 registrants also receive a UV protected cap.
Perfect.
And it's a nice looking cap, and we're I think at about 175 registrants, so you can still get in on the free cap for the first 250.
And of course, you can learn more not only about the walk and the race, and you can register, but you can also, check out some of your frequently asked questions regarding skin cancer and melanoma, all at memorial.org. Of course, for race information, memorial.org/race. Ron, thanks for joining us, and thanks for sharing your story.
Thank you for having us.
All right, we'll talk to you again soon. We'll be right back.